Okay, good morning to everybody. Happy New Year, if you can, we can still say that at this time of the year. And welcome. This is our first sowing of 2026, which is very, very exciting. I'm sure you've all been like twitchy fingers, ready to get going. So if you're brand new here, there's two groups of newbies here. Newbies who joined us sort of earlier in January, who've got your seed packets. Newbies who've joined us in the last few days and your seed packets haven't arrived yet. And now you just have to sit here and be a little bit jealous for the next few minutes while we all sow our seeds together. But you are also very welcome here because watching and seeing how we do this means that by the time your seeds come, you'll be able to just open them up and do what we're about to do here today. I'm also recording this. This will be put into the secret garden. So if I go too fast at any point, or you get confused, or there's something you want to watch back, or you haven't got your seeds yet, you'll be able to log into the secret garden and I'll have that up within 24 hours and you'll be able to just sow along as if we were doing it live together. Okay, so we've got you all covered. This session is not going to be so much about teaching you, well, it's not at all going to be about teaching you how to grow flowers, okay? Because we're going to do that together step by step as we go through. This is about actually getting in and doing the thing today. So hopefully I'll tell you what you need, I'll tell you what the process is going to be, and then we're just going to get on with the sowing, okay? So what we are sowing today, just to give you some context, is our January flower kit, okay? So you're looking for your borage, your nigella, your godetia, your phlox, and your cathedral bells, also known as cobia scandens, for any confusion that they might have had there. If you have also recently picked up one of our sweet pea boxes, or you haven't sown your sweet peas yet, I'll do a little demo. I'll sow some sweet peas as well. Okay, so if you've already done your sweet peas, you don't need to do sweet peas, you can just jump off the call at that point. I'll do those last, so that if you haven't done them, you need to know how to do them, just stay on and we'll do those together as well. Okay, so hopefully you've got your seeds with you. Now, if you have any other seeds at all that you wanting to sow for this year, there might be leftovers from last year, you might have picked up some packets. We are going to do a, sorry, let me just mute it. We are going to do a huge kickoff cut flower, catch up cut flower patch session like this on the 15th of February. And the reason why we're going to sow most of our seeds in February is that we really want the light levels to be 10 hours a day of daylight across the country before we really like go into our big hardy annual sowing. Okay, so, and that gives the best chance of really, really healthy plants. So even though you're going to be like really twitchy to sow more seeds sooner, please don't, because you will have the best chance of success if we wait until then. The reason we are just sowing this handful now is, well, mainly because everyone's so keen and impatient that I need to give you some outlet to let that pressure out for starting to sow seeds. And we do this, I call it a risky sow. It's a risky sow because the light levels are quite low. Okay, so we don't sow every seed in this packet because if they don't do well for any reason, we can sow them again in February, no problem. But this is just how you get your seed sowing kicks. It gives you an opportunity to start. And I will say that I've done this risky sow for the last 6 years and it's never failed me. Right? I've always got good plants from it. So what you're going to learn a lot, especially if you're new, is like first when you start, you like learn how to do it all by the rules, just like screen out what everyone else is saying. There's a million different bits of gardening advice about sow this then, sow that then, sow this. Just look for my instructions and just follow my instructions and like tunnel vision a little bit, right? And just follow what I'm doing. And then once you've done it for a year like that, then you can start like gathering up other information and other ways of doing things and experimenting. But if you've got a good foundation in place, it's much easier for you to experiment from there, right? So if you look at gardening advice everywhere, like well, some people are sowing now, right? The flower farmers who are in the know, they start sowing now, right? Or very soon. But you might see most people say, oh no, don't sow till March or April, right? But don't worry about that. Like, just trust me. Okay. So we're going to do this risky sow today, just a few seeds from each packet today, just so you get a feel for it, right? Just so you can start growing them. And then these will be earlier flowering flowers, right? Some of them we're starting earlier because they take a little while to get going as well. And I'll explain that as we go through each of them. So what you'll need today, and please like type in the chat as we go, and I will, at some point, I will come to the chat and look at the questions, okay? But for now, I'm just going to kind of glide on through and then I'll come back and answer questions. So first, this is going to be, I have decided, a great year. There's going to be no weird weather. There's going to be no slugs. It's just going to be like sunshine and beautiful armfuls of flowers for all of us this year. Like, that would kind of be boring, wouldn't it? But like, that's my floral intention for this year. So please excuse if you can hear noise in the background. It's my dog wandering in and out and drinking water and stuff. Zoom's usually pretty good at cutting it out, but hopefully we're okay. So we have got our seed packets. I'll tell you what we need. You've got your seed packets. If you happen to see, now you might not have done, right? If you happen to see my post, because I forgot to put this in the email, the Cobia scandens, cathedral bells, need to be soaked for a couple of hours before you can sow them. I put a note in the Facebook group. I never know how many of you it shows that notice to. If you haven't soaked them, don't worry, just watch, and then you can soak yours, and then you'll be ready to go in a couple of hours, right? So my Cobia scandens I've got soaking here in this little pot. I'm doing 8 of the seeds. I'm not doing all of them. You will need labels, okay? If you're new, doesn't matter if you don't have like proper labels, you can cut up a yogurt pot, an old milk carton, but you need some labels. Please don't use bits of cardboard, old bits of seed packet, bits of paper. Like, they just will rot in the with the water, and if you write on it with pencil, you'll also find that you lose the writing on it, so you won't know what it says. But the biggest mistake that our newbies make is they forget to label, or they lose their labels, or they write on something where the label all washes off, and then everyone will be posting in the Facebook group going, what is this? What is the seedling? Can anyone tell me what this is? And I know, I know it's going to happen, but I'm trying to prevent that pain for you, right? So you know what you're sowing. It sounds so obvious, right? Label your seeds, but it's the biggest rookie mistake that we make. I use, for my pens, this. It's called an Artline garden marker. Hopefully you've got a notepad and pen so you can write some of these things down. Artline garden marker. You can get them off Amazon, probably in your local nursery, but these things are great and they don't come off, okay? The only time they come off is if you swoosh them. Like, I've had these labels. I don't like buying lots of plastic. I've had these labels for 6 years, and you just get nail varnish remover, swish them around some nail varnish remover, and it's like they're brand new again. Okay, takes that off, brand new labels. So reuse, 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 reuse. The other thing you're going to need, obviously, is something to sow your seeds into. So today, and I'll tell you why I'm doing this, sometimes I sow into module trays, and I've got some module trays that I'll be sowing some of the seeds into. Usually I use 40 cell module trays. This time I'm using a 24 cell tray, just because I'm going to put my Cobia scandens in these, because the cells are a little bit bigger and they're going to be quite chunkier plants, but you can still sow them into smaller module trays. So you might have a 40 cell module tray, you might have a module tray like this, you might have your own different types of module trays. I have got some of these today that I'm sowing some of my seeds into. And the reason, but you can use yogurt pots, Chinese takeaway containers, food wrap, like food containers, anything that's plastic and has got holes in the bottom for drainage. That's all you need. Now, the reason I'm sowing in these today is because, and I promise you this is totally unnecessary and you don't need one, but I have treated myself last year to one of these propagators, electric window propagators. And so these little things fit really snugly all along here on my windowsill behind me, right? And so these will provide a little bit of warmth underneath to help the seeds germinate. I did not use one of these for the first 4 years of growing. You don't need to buy one, but if you have one, they're really handy, okay? They're a good thing to put on your Christmas list, but you don't need one. If you don't have those, then what you will need also, I'm a bit stacked up together, but one of these gravel trays, and they're gravel trays, not seed trays, have got holes in the bottom. Gravel trays have no holes in the bottom. And the reason you need one of these is because once you've sown your seeds, you can pop it in there, pop it on your windowsill, and it means when you water, obviously you're not going to destroy your windowsill then, right? So something to pop your seeds into, seed tray into. So I'm going to show you how to sow in this. I'm going to show you also how to sow in module tray, and I'll talk you through both ways of doing it as I'm doing it, okay? So it doesn't matter, the seeds don't mind, right? As long as they've got compost and water, they don't mind what you grow them in. The other thing you're going to need is compost. or coir. So some of you have got our starter kit, which is, and some of you just prefer using coir compost. So if you've got our starter kit, hopefully you've made up some of your coir into compost so that it's alive and ready to use by adding the water to it. So hopefully you've got some of that. I've got here, I'm using Silver Grow by Melcourt. It's peat with your compost, cheap, nasty compost. You want to get the highest quality compost that you can afford because it really makes a difference to your seeds. You want to pull out big sticks. When you get premium compost, you don't normally find a load of sticks in it, actually. Cheap compost, you can tell because it's all straws and sticks. If that's all you've got today, don't worry about it, right? Like just start, and then you'll know next time you buy your next bag, you're going to buy more high-end compost, if you like. It really makes a difference to your seeds' health. So go like this and just make sure that your compost, your coir is all kind of broken down. It's like making crumble, right? And this, to me, is one of the best feelings in the world. Don't ask me why. Hopefully you get me. But you won't be able to type that into the chat now because you've got mud all over your hands. Sometimes you get these little white balls in it. They're not slug eggs. Don't worry. It's fertilizer. Okay. So that's to preempt any panicky questions in the Facebook group later. So what we are going to do now, and we should have done this before I put my hands in the compost. You could sweep up of the floor later. So the first thing we're going to do is, take the tops off your seeds. So ideally we do this before we get our hands in the compost, right? So we're not handling seeds with muddy fingers and all the rest of it. So take the seeds, take the lids, take the tops off your packets, right? Open them up, open them all up. This is just really good practice for every time you sow your seeds, is get this bit ready before you go out in the garden or before you go to the greenhouse, right? So you can go out and you've got everything prepared. It's like I did chef training at one point, you'd never know it, but like your mise en place, you get everything out ready to go and then you begin. It's just good practice, and it just means that you're not trying to open seeds when you've got wet hands and everything, okay? So if you open each of your seed packets and open the seeds inside, so they are all ready to go. And then the next thing you want to do is write the date on the back of the packet. So just January 2026. And the reason for that is, if you don't end up sowing all of your seeds, and we very rarely do we sow a whole packet of something. Sometimes our seeds are done by weight, and sometimes if you've got big seeds, there will only be like a really small number of seeds in there, so you might use them all. But otherwise, if you don't use them all, then you can sow these, you can sow them again in March. If you want a second flush of flowers, you'll have plenty going on by then, so you won't need to. But you can save them, put them aside, and you can sow them again next year. The germination won't be as high as it is when you've got fresh seeds. So all our seeds, we order them fresh. Like we don't have a stockpile of seeds. We order them every month. We order in fresh seeds for you. And it means you can sow them again next year, slightly less germination, sometimes even after 2 years. Keep them somewhere cool and dry and dark. Okay, so I feel like I'm on a TV shopping channel this morning. If you don't have one of the Floral Project seed boxes, you'll find their handy compartments inside, very easy to use. They're on the website. You get 10% off these because you're a Flower Club member. So because I'm doing this with you, I did take the tops off my seeds, but I am going to label them with you, okay? This is a sew together, not a teach along. Well, it is, but I am doing it with you. We just open the chat up on the side in case anyone's panicking that they can't do it. Okay, so I'll tell you about the depth. Okay, so these are cathedral bells. They are not Canterbury bells. Canterbury bells are a totally different type of plant. Okay, so if you're getting confused, these are cathedral bells. They're also, I'll talk to you a little bit about them when we get to them. Okay. Okay. No, I don't do separate emails out about everything that I post in Facebook, I'm afraid. Lots of people, if you don't like Facebook, what a lot of people do is they come into the group and they join Facebook just to go into our group, and it's the only place they ever go on Facebook. but it's impossible for me to create every video multiple times and send it out in lots of different ways, unfortunately. Plus that's where all the conversation happens in our community. So what we're going to do is make sure that you're making sure your compost is nice and fluffy, if you like. And then you're going to take your trays or your module trays and pop some compost in them, right? So what I don't want to see, I'm sounding like a teacher, what I don't want to see is this, right? 1 centimetre of compost in your thing, right? Don't be tight with it. Be generous with your compost. Don't fill it right up to the top because you're going to want to water and you don't want all the water just to fall straight out of the edge. So do it up to like 1 centimetre from the top here, fine. And in your module trays as well. Once you've got, I'm just going to fill mine up here while I'm talking. Make sure that you tap it like this, okay? Especially if you've got module trays, tap them like this because you'll find that the compost all settles and then you've got a big gap in the middle or somewhere that, you know, in one of the corner bits of the module tray that you didn't realise. So I'm doing some of these. Again, just fill it in module trays. Now you might not know, well, do I fill up 1 module tray, 2 module trays, 3, 4, 5? I don't know how much to do. And so one of the things that I will say, that's why you'll do that. One of the things I'll say is that you, once you get going, you'll start to understand how many seeds you need to sow, especially if you're new, right? So when I first started, I was like, well, is 1 seed 1 flower? Is that how it works? Because I know I want quite a lot of flowers. So that means I'm going to sow like 100 seed. I'll sow the whole packet, right? So that I get a whole packet's worth of flowers. But no, nearly every plant, every seed that we sow, stocks is probably the only exception. You will get multiple flowers from every single seed that you sow. It's really hard to believe when you're looking at a tiny little seed like this that you're going to get like 60 flowers off it, right? Like it's amazing. So if you are thinking about, well, how many seeds do I sow? Just start small today, okay? And then I'm going to give you a link in the chat if you don't have it. I've lost you. There you go. To our Planning the Grow to Give. So I'm just giving you a coupon code for this. Can't type with mud on my hands. The Grow to Give Garden Workshop, which I'm going to take you step by step through everything that you need to know to grow your seeds. But if you want to figure out for my garden with the space that I have, how many plants can I grow and therefore how many seeds do I need to sow? That workshop is one that so many of our members have and they absolutely love it. So it will take you step by step by step by step, and you'll have a really good fundamental understanding of like how the plants work and also how many seeds to sow. But if you're just starting today, like we're just going to sow, I'll tell you how many of each I'm sowing. I just want a handful of each, especially because we're just doing a small sow today. So you want like somewhere between, I don't know, 8 and 12 seeds, right, that we want to sow today. So if you've got a 40 cell module tray, then that's plenty for us to be sowing like 1 tray of seeds, right? And you can sow different seeds in each of the rows or columns, okay? So what we're going to do, just to give you an overview, is we're going to sow these seeds and then we are going to water them. We're going to label them, then we're going to water them. Then we're going to put them on our windowsills until they germinate. And as soon as they germinate, we are moving them outside under cover. And what that means is into a greenhouse, if you're lucky enough to have one, proper glass greenhouse. I don't yet, one of these days. Let me just get you a link here as well. On this link here, if you click on these links, by the way, it'll open up in a new tab and then you can go to it after the workshop is finished. I'll also put these under this video when I put the recording up. We need to put them outside under cover. Leaving them on your kitchen windowsills will give you weak plants that are leggy and reaching for the light, and they cannot get enough light on the windowsill, even though there's this much light, right? They need to have overhead light. They need light. They need warmth, compost and water to germinate, and then they need light as soon as they've got going. So I've put in on that link there, there's a chat of, sorry, I was looking at the conversation there. I've put a link there for greenhouse alternatives and what some of our growers use. Sometimes they use the big, just big plastic boxes you can get from Homebase or B&Q, and with the plastic lids to go over the top. And there's your temporary greenhouse structure, right, which you can then move around to wherever the sun is shining that day. So that's the overall process, and we'll grow them, we'll germinate them here. We'll grow them on in our wherever they are under cover. For most of these seeds, if it's a hardy annual seed, we will plant them out no sooner than the end of March. So you've got plenty of time to figure out where they're going to go in your garden. Okay, but this is the time to be thinking and planning about it. But I started growing my very first seeds at this time in 2020, this time of year, like 20th of January, I think it was 2020. And I had no idea what I was doing. So I had to learn, I had to sow, I had to build the beds, I had to figure out how it was all going to work. And I managed to get armfuls of flowers that summer. So what I'm hoping is that what I've put together here for you is just going to make it so much easier than everything I had to do. Plus, you couldn't even get compost because it was lockdown. So it was very tricky. But I'm just looking out to my cut flower patch out there. So we just step by step by step, I'm going to take you through every bit of the process. Okay. So like what happens when they start germinating, what happens when they start growing, what happens, what we have to prick them out. What does that mean? Do we have to pinch them? What does that mean? When do we plant them out? When do we pop them on? Like, oh my goodness, well, I don't even know what these words mean, right? Don't worry. I'm going to show you every week. Like, look, it's germinated. This is what to do with it now, right? So don't worry, step by step. Yes. You're saying very overwhelming. Okay. Well, I'll make sure that if you go to join our Facebook group, by the way, make sure that you tick and answer the questions. Otherwise, it won't let you in. Okay. There's questions that you need to answer before you come in. Mainly like, are you going to behave yourself in the group? If you don't tick that, we don't let you in. Right. Enough chat. Let's get sowing. So hopefully you've all got your compost ready to go. I'm going to start with the borage because it's the simplest, easiest thing you'll ever grow, and the seeds are really easy to handle. It's a very prolific plant. It will self-seed everywhere. So that's a good thing in my books. I mean, I have to pull quite a lot of it up because it does self-seed again. So you'll get lots again later in the year. But it has these beautiful blue flowers. It smells heavenly. You can put the flowers into ice cubes and put them in G&Ts, all sorts of things. So, and they've got really big hairy stems, but if you put them in the middle of a cut flower arrangement, they just are gorgeous and the smell is heavenly. So this is what we're going to do. If you've got a module tray, you are going to want to sow one seed per module. So say you're sowing 8, and this was your module tray, you would put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Or actually, no, you wouldn't. You do 2, 4, 6, 8. You do it that way, wouldn't you? But if you've got whatever makes sense for you in your module tray. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make, because I'm growing mine like this, I'm going to give them plenty of space. I don't need 100. I don't need 100 of anything, right? I would love to have, say, 8 borage plants, right? So I am going to make a little hole, and I'm not being scientific about it. I'm just making a little hole. This thing is called a dibber. You have a finger that works just as well. Like start with what you've got, where you are with what you've got, right? Use the end of a pen or, yeah, that's what I did for my first year. And then I realized there were these things called dibbers and I bought one of those and I've had the same one ever since. So I'm just going to make 8 little holes, pull off any big twigs. And I'm going to pop a seed in each and just popping them in. Hopefully you're doing this alongside me. Right, and then make sure, so then you pop your seeds back into the packet. Don't do what I just did. Don't do it over your compost, right? Do away from your compost, otherwise you'll get random seeds germinating in your compost. You won't know what they are. Fold over the top to seal it like this. Pop it back in the packet. And then you're going to put that to one side because you're going to put that somewhere dry and dark I mean, you might even write January flower kit on it actually, so you remember as well. You don't need to. Dry and dark, away from the light. Okay. So what I'm now going to do with these seeds is I'm just going to gently cover them over like this. I'm not like pressing down really hard. I'm just lightly covering them. They just need contact with the compost. That's what they need. Then, oh, forgot to do our labels. See, I'm out of practice because it's January. Sorry, newbies. I'm normally more organized than this. After we've opened our packets, we do our labels before we start sewing normally, okay? So let's just take a couple of minutes now to make our labels if we haven't already. So I'm just going to write the name of the plant on here. So I'm going to write borage, and then I'm going to put 25th of January, 26. And I'm going to do that for all of my plants now, so that I've got them here on one side. I will also, if it's like Nigella white, I will put a little W there, just so I remember the colour. So sorry, this is normally when I rip open the seed packets, this is normally what I would then do. Just got a bit overexcited this morning. Right. Hopefully you've all got your labels done. So with our borage that we just sowed, right, so we pop our labels in. Now, let me tell you what else we're going to do. I'm going to water these. Now, normally I wouldn't do this over the compost, but I can't take them outside and do them and show you. So you can just lightly, there's a few different ways of watering. What you want, the idea is that you want your compost to be moist, but not damp. Damp means your seeds will rot. Okay, so you don't want it too wet. I know when you're new, it's really hard to figure out like, what does a well-watered tray look like? And I'm going to tell you, it's more what does a well-watered tray feel like? Okay, so you're going to start getting, and I can't say to you it's 100 grams. What I can say to you is start picking up your trays and feeling them, and you'll start to get a sense of when something's well watered or not, especially if you're using things like coir, peat-free compost as well. Often will look dry on the surface, but it's actually really damp underneath, and you can't tell unless you stick your finger in or you lift it up and you can feel the weight of it. If your compost is already quite damp, you don't need to water it. You can just make sure that everything's the compost has got contact with the seeds and you're good to go. If yours is like mine, it's not moist, then I'm using a sippy cup, like a drinks cup, water cup, and you can see how much water I'm putting on, just enough. I know these seeds are just under the surface, so I don't need to make the whole compost soaking wet. They just need to be damp enough. So this is moist, but it's not damp. Okay. Now I can pick this up in a couple of days, and if it feels totally dried out, I can put some more water in it. But it's got enough water so that the seeds are getting moist and enough water to start like to soak into the compost a little bit so that when the seeds reach down, they can get water. Well, sometimes the other way we'll water if we've got really fine seeds, and actually we have got some fine seeds today, but I'm just going to continue to do it this way. Another way of watering is to get a tray like this, put an inch of water in the bottom of that, and put your dry seed tray in like that, and it will soak up the water. It's called watering from the bottom up, from the underneath, watering from the underneath. So you would leave them in there for like half an hour, check if the soil looks damp, if it feels really heavy. Otherwise, 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour. It will depend on how humid your house is, how dry your environment is, how dry your soil is, the quality of your compost. It will depend on lots of different things. It'll be no more than an hour, but you don't also want to drown your seeds. So you need to just set your alarm clock and keep a check on them. I'm up for doing it the easy, simple way. So I've just watered with my little bottle there. And And that's what I need to do. Now, at this time of the year, what can be really helpful is to have a lid, right? Because what this lid will do is these are going to sit on my kitchen windowsill. And as the water starts to evaporate off into the environment, because the heating is on and everything, the soil will just dry out more quickly. This makes a little mini greenhouse on my kitchen windowsill. So what that will start to happen is the water will all condensate inside here, but it will be like kind of humid and warm inside of here. I just keep the little thing on the top closed shut. So I will leave them like that until they germinate, and then I'll take the lid off. If you don't have a lid for your seed trays, that's fine as well. You can actually just use a plastic bag if you want to put them on, or you can just use nothing, right? It doesn't matter. This will just probably help speed up the process a little bit, right? I put my seeds on my kitchen windowsill. You can put yours outside in a greenhouse if you want to. They will just take longer, right? I'm a control freak. I like to come down here every morning and look at all my seeds and see if there's any green coming out. Like I want to know if that's going on, right? I'm like, every morning I'll come down and check, do they need watering? Like I do a bit of mithering over them. I love doing that. If you're like, just can't be asked, gardener, just put them out in the greenhouse and make sure you just go check on them, right? But I like, still after all these years, I still like to see when mine come up and spot when they need to go out in the greenhouse. So you don't have to have a lid. It will just help keep a bit of condensation in if you do. Okay, so that can now go into my gravel tray and onto my windowsill, or onto my heated propagator and onto my windowsill. Again, the propagator will probably just help by a couple of days get everything going. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is because I need to be ahead of you to show you what to do next, right? And if mine are sitting here and not germinating, I can't show you when yours germinate what to do next. So now, because the label won't fit in, because it was too, will it fit? Oh, maybe it will actually. Let's see. Otherwise, I'll just put the label on the top. Yeah, no, it will. Otherwise, I'll just put the label on the top until I take the lid off. But as soon as it germinates, I don't worry about this, like doing anything with this little thing on the top. I just take the lid off as soon as the first one germinates. So what you might find with your seeds is they will germinate at different rates. These little babies come up fast, the borage, but you'll find others like the cobia scandens or the phlox take a lot longer. Don't worry about that. That's natural. That's a natural process of plants. You might also find that 2 of your borage come up and the other 4 sit there waiting for a while. That's also normal as well. That is nature. Okay, we're not growing little robot machines here. We're working with nature, which is a fickle thing. So, borage done. Do you see that? We have started our 2026 cut flower patch. It is done. And so it is, right? So now we're here. Let's get on with the rest. So I'm hoping to keep you no longer than the top of the hour. So we've got the basics. Now we'll get going with everything else. The next ones I'm going to do are the Nigella. Okay, so we got our Nigella out. And again, I'm going to do 8 of these. What you'll find when you start growing is that you're going to kill probably at least half of your seedlings to start with, okay? Because the slugs will get them, or you'll overwater them, or you'll knock the seeds over, or your greenhouse will blow over, or you'll lose a lot of seeds, okay? So you want to sow, when you start sowing, sow probably about twice as many as you would actually like to have plants at the end. I'm a little bit more confident now. Like our germination is great with our seeds, I'll tell you that, because we use such fresh seeds. But anything can happen, right? I could have a tiny, like a really dry patch here, and this seed just doesn't germinate. I could have a dud seed that doesn't germinate. Again, it's nature. So sow twice as many as you might need, right? Ideally, in my cut flower patch, with the design I have for my cut flower patch, usually I either want 4 or 8 plants because of the way that I grow them in the garden. I'm growing in borders this year because I don't have my cut flower patches out of action this summer. But I'm still going for 8 of these. And if I want more, I can always sow some more later. Okay, so these seeds are a little bit smaller and a little bit harder to handle, but still just try and drop 1 in each module or 1 in each hole. I've probably done my hole a little bit too deep here, but never mind. With these ones, you can probably just actually place them on the surface and then sprinkle some soil over. I've just put, I know it seems unbelievable. Can that really be enough? 8 of those little specks of black into the holes. That's really going to give me a cut flower patch. Yes, it is. Just you wait. You're going to be amazed. Right, so again, I'm just lightly covering those over. I will water these after I'm done with you because now I've shown you once about watering. You can just do these, water it afterwards. Label, lid, done. Ooh. Next. So next we'll do Gadisha. Now these are tiny little seeds. When you get these out, you'll see. So these are beautiful pink flowers. They're like, sorry, the Nigella are like star-shaped flowers. If you've never grown them before, they're amazing, unusual, interesting flowers, and their seed heads are beautiful as well. Gadisha are like trumpets of pink and white and like some are pink, some are white, some are pink and white flowers, and they are beautiful. See, if you don't know what you're growing, you just sometimes have to just trust and wait and see. Of course, you can Google it and have a look, but or you can have a look in the flower guides inside the secret garden. But otherwise, what I did the first year is I just knew what I was supposed to be growing. I grew it, and then I was delighted and surprised by everything that flowered and came up. So if you can get 8 of these out, you're a genius. So I am just sprinkling out way more than 8, right? But a few. Now what you can do is if you've got a good pinky nail, you can like pick out like see the seeds individually, or you can dampen a toothpick and pick them up one at a time. And so you could place your seeds across the surface like that. I'm going to do the old-fashioned approach. I'm just going to sprinkle them across the surface like this. I'm trying to space them out the best I can. And the reason we space them out and the reason we put them in separate modules, so if you're doing in a module tray, just try and get a couple of seeds in each module. The reason we separate them out like this is because we're going to do something called pricking out once they grow a bit bigger, which is we pull them, we gently lever them out and we put them into a bigger pot so that they can grow on in a bigger pot. And we don't want all their roots all entangled with each other. Okay, so that's why we try and space them out as much as we can. What I'm going to do with those now is just sprinkle. I just want to lightly cover those. So I'm just going to sprinkle my compost over. I can't see them because they're dark. Just got to hope that I'm giving them a bit of a covering. Try not to put any big, see if you put a big chunk like that on top of a seed, it just, that tiny little seed can't push up and through something like that. So I'm going to label. Lid. Done. Right, I hope I'm not going too fast for you all. I'm just conscious of time. Right, the phlox. Let's do the phlox next. So the phlox, these are slightly more tricky. So these need dark for germination. So ideally, you want to sow them in something separate from your other seedlings if you can. So if you've got a yogurt pot, and some of you might be thinking, oh, I haven't got anything, but I could come up with something that's separate, and I'll tell you for why. Then maybe you don't sow along with me right now, but you go and get a pot out of the fridge or you find something else to use to do it separately, and I'll tell you for why. This is perfect for me because these need dark for germination. So we're going to sow these, and then I am going to put, I haven't got anything handy here, but a book basically over the top of them to keep them in darkness, okay, to germinate. When you do that, you keep checking them, not every minute. You probably will check them every minute if you're new, but like every day, you want to check them every day because the minute they germinate, the first one germinates, take the lid off, okay? Because otherwise that poor little first one that's germinated, it's got no light and it will just be like, bleh. It'll last 5 minutes and then it'll be all leggy and white and then it won't be very happy. I've always sown them in the dark. I'm experimenting this year with seeing whether that is really necessary or not. So I will be doing 2 trays, one in the light, one in the dark. And I'm going to tell you my experiment as to which one works best, which gives us the healthiest, quickest plants, okay? But for now, let's just do it the standard way, where I will experiment on behalf of all of us. But let's just do it the standard way. So you can see that my you need to make sure that your whatever you're using to sew your flocks in. And by the way, if you are using a module tray, you could try doing it by putting them at the end, right? And just then covering over just this end bit here with something like a bit of cardboard or a book or something. So if you haven't got anything else you could sew into. So sometimes phlox is a little bit slower to come up as well. So when anything else goes out into the garden, you might want to keep your phlox inside a little bit longer. But you can have it in a module tray, and I'll tell you, it all goes out at the same time then. So this is not filled completely to the top because if a seedling does pop up, sometimes they pop up and they grow in the space of a day, like a centimetre, right? Before you've spotted that they've grown. If you filled this right to the top and there's a book on the top and that little seedling is trying to get out, but it can't, like, so I just make sure there's definitely a centimetre of room here. So if it pops up in the day and I don't check for 24 hours, at least it's got a little bit of space. It's not butting its head up against a book, which wouldn't be very natural for a plant. So let's get these open. Don't really want to lick your fingers actually, because seeds are not the best things to ingest. So don't copy my example there. And again, I'm going to try and do 8. So I am sewing these, yeah, about 1.5 centimetres deep, because that helps them be in the dark as well. And I'll show you a little trick for if one germinates before another. I can't talk and sew because I have to hold my breath. That's the law, right? I'm so not getting just one in each hole here, but I'll deal with that if I get 2 that come up. So I'm going to cover those over. Oh, I didn't show you what I was doing there. So I just made a hole 1.5 centimetres deep. And then just the same as we've done with the others. And I'm covering them over. Now, say this one germinates and this one germinates, but none of the others do yet, and they're being a bit slow. You would take the cover off, right? Keep them inside for maybe 1 more day just to see if any of the others germinate. But then what you can do is this will then have to go out to the greenhouse because these ones have germinated and they need light. So they trump these ones, right? They need the light. Then what you can do is you can just take a handful of compost because you're putting them out in the greenhouse and they've now got no cover on them. You can take a little handful of compost and just pile it over where the other ones haven't germinated. Just helps it make it a little bit darker for them. Okay. If you've got a really fancy bit of cardboard, you could just slide the cardboard along a little bit. I mean, obviously you'll get some light in the sides. Okay, so again, label, water. I won't put a lid on these ones. Where's my label? I won't put a lid on these ones. Instead, I'll just put them with everything else, but I'll put a book over the top once I've watered them. That's my phlox. Now, so if you have soaked your cobia, this is what we're going to do with them. Okay, so if you haven't soaked them, just watch. But if you have soaked them, this is what we're going to do with them. So I just need to fill this. So I'm going to sew 8 of my cobia. I'm not sewing all 12 because I want to keep some backups for February in case any of these don't germinate or I have any problems or the slugs get them or whatever. So now module trays, I should have said this, you do fill to the top like this, right? You don't need to leave 1 centimetre of room there unless you're doing phlox, in which case do leave a little bit of room at the top there so you can cover them over like we just said. So with our cobia, so these have been soaked in water for a couple of hours. With your cobia seeds, you can see they're really flat. And what you want to do is you want to sew them on their sides like this. Can't quite get the angle right here. So this I'm putting on its side, and I'm just going to slide it into the soil like that. Okay. And the reason you do it put them on their side and slide them in is so that they're less likely to rot. So the watering, just like soaking them before, just softens them up, gets them a little bit ready. We don't want them to rot. So if you were to put them flat like that, then they would get water all over the surface of them. This way, they're more likely to germinate without rotting. I'm still going to water the compost gently, but I can't talk and sew. Let's get that last one in and then I can talk again. So I'm just covering over the top gently, so they're lightly covered. I will put my label in. I can find it. Here we go. And again, I will water these and then I'll put them in the gravel tray, like so. Water them. And then I actually do have a plastic lid, which is in the greenhouse at the moment. But I'll get my plastic lid and I'll put that over the top. Again, you can use a plastic bag or just nothing. And I just leave them here in this, look, sunshine. See, we are supposed to be sewing now. And then they'll go on the windowsill. Right, so that's what to do with your cobia. Soak them for a couple of hours if you haven't. So for a lot of you, if that's all your sewing you need to do for your January sewing, you're done. Okay, so show me, I'm just gonna put you on gallery view, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna take a picture. Show me, hold me up something you've sewed this morning with a big fat grin on your face. Just show me how happy you are that you've started your cut flower patch. That's amazing. Hang on, smile, hold them up. Brilliant. I love seeing that. See, it's done. It's started. It has begun. You're done. That's it. You can go now. Permission to leave. So just let me tell you one thing before you start, before you go. Watch out in the Facebook group because I will post like there are articles that I've got about like what to do at any stage of the growing process. You can go into your secret garden and look at what to do now, and you'll see that tells you like pricking out, like tells you the step-by-step process in there. So you can go to that at any time. I would also post updates in the Facebook group. Okay, so when these germinate, I'll post a little video and go, look, mine have germinated. This is what I'm doing with them now. But essentially what we want to do is as soon as any of your seeds germinate, now I've got mine in separate pots, right? So if, hang on, I can't see myself. Show you what I'm showing you. If this germinates before this one, I will take this out into the greenhouse. I'll leave this one on the kitchen windowsill. If three of the seeds in here germinate, but the other three haven't, I will take it out to the windowsill. I'll take it out to the greenhouse, right? Germinated seeds trump all others. If I've sown in here and I've got 5 different varieties of seeds all in this tray, and these ones germinate, but these ones don't, they all go out to the greenhouse. Now, what you can do with some of these trays is you could actually cut them if you wanted to. I've done that in the past. It means they don't last as long, which I don't like. But they all go out into the greenhouse. And these ones, even though they haven't germinated yet, they will germinate. They'll just take a bit longer. Okay, so once they germinate, straight outside. Loads of you will show me pictures like, oh my God, I forgot to put them outside. Look, they've gone all leggy. What do I do? And sometimes you can save them. Sometimes you just have to start again. But that's all right. We're going to do lots of starting again when we're new to growing and giving and all the rest of it. Okay, so it's fine. And if you get stuck with anything, if there's any problems, you just post in the Facebook group. I will tell you that the cobia, sorry, there's a cat jumping up. The cobia can take up to 30 days to germinate, okay? Some of them can even take 2 months. So you need to have some patience with those ones, right? The phlox can sometimes be a little bit slow as well. Both of those are half hardy plants. If you're a newbie, just put your fingers in the ears because it will be too much information, too confusing. They're half hardy plants, so we won't actually plant them out until the last frosts. So kind of around the beginning of May is when we'll be planting those out into the garden. They've got plenty of time to grow. Okay, and the others we'll be planting out like end of March or as soon as they're as big as our fist. So you've got time to figure out where they're going to go in the garden. You've got time to go through the workshop. You've got time for all of that stuff. You've done the hardest bit actually is opening up the compost, ripping open the seeds and getting the things in there to start. Okay, so that's normally the trickiest bit. I'm going to stay on now to show sweet peas. So, but if you're done, thank you very much for joining me. Let's compare notes in the Facebook group, right? Show me, post your thing that you've done in the Facebook group and say I did it. Um, and or show me when they germinate. I'm going to do sweet peas. I'm going to do one set of sweet peas and then I'm going to go and answer questions in the chat, okay? So just to show you how to do them. Sweet peas you need to do in something deeper than just a module tray, okay? So you can do them in, you can get special root trainers, which there is a full growing guide to this in the Secret Garden. But just to tell you, you can either get really deep root trainers. If you don't have any of those, don't rush out and go and buy some. A 9 centimeter pot, right, which means the width of it, but a 9 centimeter pot will do you just fine, okay? Or a yogurt pot or a milk carton. Try not to use toilet rolls. People love using toilet rolls, but they rot before your plant gets really good. Sorry, the lighting in here is dreadful, isn't it? So you can't, because I'm standing in front of the window. So compost for my sweet peas. And if you're growing in root trainers, you would put 2 sweet peas in each root trainer. If you're growing in a 9 centimeter pot or a yogurt pot, you can put 3 in. So get this packet open. So these are some from last year. I've got, because my ones we sowed load at Christmas together, doing a session like this, if you're new, and mine are all germinating and romping away and doing really well. So I will show you those next time I do a garden tour. So what I'm doing with my sweet peas is I am just making 3 holes about a centimetre deep. I haven't pre-soaked these, I never pre-soak them. Centimetre deep, drop your seeds in and cover them over. See, look, it's really not hard. We can all do it. Let me find a label. I will label these, I'll water them. I probably won't bother putting a plastic over those just because I don't have anything that really fits over that. I could put it in a plastic bag, but I don't really want to use that plastic if I can help it. So I'll just leave them on my windowsill like this to germinate. When you plant these out, you'll plant them out. If they're in root trainers, you'll plant them out in pairs. If they are in here, you'll plant them out in 3s. Okay, so you'll just plant this whole lot out together. These and your cobia scandens will need supports, okay, but we'll come to that later because they're climbers, so they will grow up. Also, you can use them as trailers, certainly for cobia scandens if you want to. So let me come to some of your questions while you are continuing to sow and catch up and wherever you are. Georgina, love this. Message for the newbies. First year I overdid it and had over 800 seedlings to plant out. I was so overwhelmed. Do you know that's why the Floral Project started, being a giving project? My initial intention was to grow enough flowers for the corner of my daughter's desks and my son's desk and my desk during lockdown. And very quickly I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do with all of these? And I was suddenly like, oh my goodness, I could donate them. And that's how the giving part of the Floral Project started, actually, just so that I could fulfill my need to keep growing them. Yeah. Oh, so also if you're new, sorry, hopefully you're still on the call. If you are new, please watch this video. It's our welcome video. It's in your welcome email, but a lot of people miss it. As soon as you're in the Facebook group, go and click and watch that welcome video because it will explain a lot of things about how it all works and how not to get overwhelmed with the group, okay? Because I know you go in there and you're like, oh my God, people are talking about all these things. I don't know, they all seem really knowledgeable. I feel like I've just landed, I don't know, halfway through a really good party where everyone else is already drunk and I've arrived sober and I don't know what is going on. I don't know why I came up with that analogy, but just because everyone's having fun in the group and you're like, totally over my head. If that's the way you feel when you go in the group, just look at the pictures. They'll make you happy. And that's all you need to do right now, okay? And ask any questions you've got in there. So I've got bigger module trays, 15 per tray. Each tray is about 9 by 14 inches. Should I put 2 seeds in each module? Hopefully you didn't. You can, but it just saves you a job later. Like it's better to sow them in individual Like when I've sowed my seeds in something like this, they're because there's no plastic separating them, their roots potentially will entangle, okay? But that's fine. When we prick them out, we can gently disentangle them, and that's fine. The reason we do them in module trays is because if they're in a module tray, there's no tangling going on in there, right? They've each got their own cell. And especially for some of our seeds that don't like their roots being messed with, then, and don't worry about the details of that, but then the module trays tend to suit them better. How deep for the holes, please? Okay, so hopefully you saw. You can always check back on the back of your packets. So it's either like sow near the surface and cover gently, or it's like sow them a centimetre, centimetre and a half deep. The instructions are all on the back of the packets if you missed and I went too fast. Yep, it's a cardboard for dark germination. Warm or cold water for soaking seeds. Lukewarm is best actually, but I did use cold, but you can use lukewarm. I put my seeds that need dark for germination in a cupboard and that seems to work well. That is genius. Airing cupboard is brilliant. The only problem with that is you would not believe how many people post in the Facebook group. Oh, I just found my seedlings and they're all like pale and have tried to get out the sides because you forgot about them. Why don't I pre-soak my sweet peas? Because I've never have done them and they've always germinated. So why introduce extra work, I always think. 9 centimeters width or depth for sweet peas? Width. The 9 centimeter pot means the width of the pot. I'm about to go away for 10 days. Shall I wait till I get back to start sowing? Looks like they need daily attention. Yes, I would wait, Verity, because well, you don't want to miss it because it's really exciting. And there's no problem with waiting at all. Like I say, most people won't get going. Those in the know will start get going in the middle of February, right? So if you take 10 days and then start, absolutely fine. If you've got a question about one of your Cerinthe that's flowered already, bring that to the Q&A call or post in the Facebook group at the risk of confusing everybody. A couple of hours to soak for the cobia scandens, 2 to 3. Feels like I didn't put enough compost in at first in the pods. Okay, then what will happen is as soon as they germinate, you might need to do what's called pricking out a little bit faster, which is just where you just lever them out. I will show you properly, but like lever them out and pop them into a module tray that does have more compost in. How many sweet peas should I sow of each variety? Again, if you have the cut flower patch planning the Grow to Give garden, you'll be able to figure out exactly how many sweet peas you've got room for in your garden. So if you've got 5 sets of sweet peas, like you might want to sow 4 of each, but it depends on your garden space. If you're growing them all up one trellis or one pot, you want to be sowing far fewer seeds. If you've got a 90-foot wall that you want to cover in sweet peas, you want to be sowing more seeds. So it really depends on your space. You'll be planting them out about 15 centimeters. Well, if they're in pairs, you'll be planting them out about 15 centimeters apart, like each pair with the sweet peas. If you've done them in pots like this, you've got triples, you'll be growing them about 22 centimeters apart. So you need to think, well, I've got a wall that's 1 meter long to grow them up. So that means I can grow 5 sweet peas, for example. What do you think about putting seed pots in sand to keep them warm in the greenhouse? I've never done it. I've never had the need to do it. What you'll need is a good point actually, is some frost cloth, because we will still get frosts all the way up till kind of May time here in Surrey. We'll get frosts. It's getting a little bit earlier every year with climate change. But when there are frosts, it's really good if you have got some lids or can get some lids, because it just protects. Like if you imagine if I've got little seedlings all popping up here, if I can put a lid over like that and then put some frost cloth over the top, it protects the little seedlings and it's got that extra layer of warmth. Okay, so frost cloth you can buy on Amazon. It's called horticultural fleece or frost cloth. And it just, when it gets below freezing, just when we want to protect our plants while they are tiny. So these are all plants that can handle some frost. but we want to make sure that they're covered over just to keep them a little bit warmer. I'll show you as I move them outside, okay? Um, will these flowers need to be grown in a flower bed or could they be grown in plant pots? We have people who grow in either. I'm not very container fingered, so my containers struggle a little bit usually. But so I grow mine in beds and the borders, but we do have lots of growers who grow in containers. You just need to make sure that some of our plants are really tall. So you need to make sure that you've got quite deep pots so that they don't just, topple over. Do you put different varieties of sweet peas in the same pot? You can. If you're like only sowing like 6 sweet peas, you can mix them all up. I tend to do the same so that I know that, okay, those are my white ones, those are my blue ones, those are my pink ones. But of course you can mix them up. Oh yeah, James puts her pots on sheep fleece to deter slugs and keeps the pots warmer. So there you go. See, there's so many different creative ways of gardening. You're going to find yourself starting to watch Gardener's World on a Friday night, and that gives you loads of tips as well. But you'll see Monty does things sometimes differently than I do as well. So who knows? We all have got our different styles of doing it. I know mine works for me, and then I'll give you variations for like if you're doing things like if you're in Scotland or Cornwall or that kind of thing, best I can. So that's our time up. So I know that's been really speedy. This is kind of like a warm up for February. So you can watch the video back, you can have another look, come into the Facebook group, ask me questions. I'll be in and out of there sort of today, tomorrow. I'm all in and out of there. Barbara and Susan are also our moderators in the group, and they will answer your questions. Our OGs will answer your questions. They love helping out each other. So just post in there as well, because I know I haven't had a chance to open up for like proper questions. Come to the Q&A calls. But I tell you, the number one thing that makes the most difference in terms of how many flowers you have to give away this summer, you've already done it. So how can we get you to open that first packet? There are lots of people who don't, and you've done it. And so that's hopefully, and even if you're just watching now, hopefully you feel enthused about how easy it is to do it. You won't just put your seeds to one side. You will be one of the ones who rips open their packets and puts the first one in compost. That's it now. You're hooked forever. Sorry. But when that first seed germinates, you'll see what I mean by the rush of endorphins that you get. Right. Thank you very much for joining me. Sorry about the mess in your kitchen. And I will post with very much excitement as soon as any of mine germinate and tell you what to do with them next. Okay? Trust me, I've got your back. All right. See you later. Take care. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye.